Captain Alex Mercer stared out the viewport of the command deck aboard the Eclipse, watching the stars streak past as the ship sailed through the emptiness of space. The calm was deceptive, a quiet routine that had characterized their long-range patrol mission. Beside him, his second-in-command, Lieutenant Jake Harris, monitored the communication arrays. "Quiet out here, isn't it?" Jake mused, breaking the silence. "Too quiet," Alex replied, his gaze still fixed on the void. "I've got a feeling that's about to change." No sooner had the words left his mouth than the communication console erupted into a flurry of beeps and flashes. Jake leaned forward, his fingers flying over the controls. "We're picking up a distress signal, Captain. It's weak, but definitely there." "Source?" Alex asked, turning to face him. "Unknown. It's not broadcasting on any of the common emergency frequencies," Jake replied, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Patch it through to the main speakers," Alex commanded. A moment later, the static-filled message echoed through the command deck. "Repeat. We require immediate assistance. Coordinates attached." The voice was distorted, almost robotic, but undeniably urgent. Alex exchanged a glance with Jake. "Plot a course to those coordinates. Let's find out who's calling for help this far out." As the Eclipse altered its course, the ship's engineer, Max Reynolds, entered the command deck. "Heard we've got a situation. What's up?" "We've received a distress signal from an uncharted region. Could be a ship in trouble or something else," Alex explained. "Or someone baiting us into a trap," Max suggested, his voice tinged with skepticism. "We have to check it out either way. Prepare for potential hostiles," Alex said, his decision firm. The journey to the coordinates took hours, tension mounting with each passing minute. The crew remained on high alert, scanning the void for any signs of the source. Finally, as they neared the designated location, an enormous shape began to materialize from the darkness, a colossal alien fleet, unlike anything humanity had encountered before. "God, look at the size of those ships," Jake whispered, awe mixed with a hint of fear in his voice. Alex stood, a mix of fascination and concern washing over him. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. Jake nodded and sent out the hail. Silence followed, the tension almost palpable, until a response finally crackled through. "This is General Zrath of the Zalar Dominion. You tread in space that is not yours, humans." Alex took a deep breath, stepping up to the communication panel. "This is Captain Alex Mercer of the Earth vessel Eclipse. We received a distress signal from this location. We're here to offer assistance, not to intrude." "A distress signal?" The alien's voice was laced with confusion and skepticism. "Impossible. We sent no such—" Suddenly the transmission cut off, replaced by an alarming proximity alert. The Eclipse shuddered slightly as dozens of alien ships adjusted their orientation slightly, a clear sign of their technological superiority and potential hostility. "Looks like we're not getting a warm welcome," Max muttered, checking his console. "Stay sharp," Alex commanded. "We need to figure out what's going on here, and fast. Jake, keep trying to re-establish communication. Max, I want full power to shields and prepare for evasive maneuvers. We might need to get out of here in a hurry." As the crew of the Eclipse braced themselves, Alex knew they had stumbled upon something monumental. The distress signal, whether a trap or a genuine plea for help, had brought them face to face with a civilization that could either become an invaluable ally or a formidable foe. The choices made in the next few moments would define the path of humanity's future among the stars. Captain Alex Mercer felt the weight of responsibility tighten around his shoulders as the standoff with the Zalar fleet intensified. The alien ships, sleek and menacing, hung in the void like silent sentinels, their intentions as yet unclear. Lieutenant Jake Harris kept his focus on the communication systems, trying to re-establish a link with the Zalar command. "Any luck, Jake?" Alex asked, his voice steady despite the tension that knotted his gut. "Nothing yet, Captain. It's like they're deliberating over their next move," Jake replied, his eyes never leaving the screens. Max Reynolds, monitoring from the engineering station, chimed in. "Our shields are at maximum, but I don't like how exposed we are out here." Alex nodded. "Keep everything at readiness, Max. We can't afford any surprises." The silence stretched on, becoming a suffocating cloak that enveloped the crew of the Eclipse. Suddenly, the communication channel crackled to life, and the imposing figure of General Zrath appeared on the main display. His features were sharply angular, his skin a mosaic of green scales, and his eyes pierced through the screen with unsettling focus. "Captain Mercer of the Earth vessel, we have observed you and your kind for some time," General Zrath began, his voice deep and resonant. "Your arrival here was not anticipated. Explain your presence. Alex stepped forward, projecting confidence. General Zarath, we received a distress signal originating from this sector. As part of the Earth Alliance, it's our duty to respond to such calls. We are here to provide aid, not to engage in conflict. The alien general's eyes narrowed slightly. Curious. You claim a signal, yet we dispatched none. However, your technology could be of use to us. You will surrender your ship and crew to the Zalar Dominion. Alex's heart skipped a beat, but his face remained impassive. With respect, General, that's not an option. We are prepared to defend ourselves if necessary, but we'd prefer a peaceful resolution. General Zarath seemed to consider this for a moment before responding. Your bravery is noted, human. Perhaps there is merit in further dialogue. Stand down your weapons, and we will allow you to remain unharmed while we deliberate your fate. Jake glanced at Alex, uncertainty written across his face. Alex gave a subtle nod, signaling his agreement. We'll stand down, General Zarath. We await your decision. As the transmission ended, the tension on the command deck shifted from imminent threat to cautious relief. Jake let out a low whistle. That could have gone worse. Or it still could, Max added, his voice tinged with his usual pessimism. I don't trust them, not for a second. Alex turned to his crew, his expression serious. Stay alert, everyone. This is far from over. We need to be ready for anything. Jake, keep trying to trace the original distress signal. There's more to this situation than we're seeing. Yes, Captain, Jake responded, turning back to his instruments. As the Eclipse hovered in the shadow of the Zalar fleet, Alex pondered their next move. The uneasy peace could shatter at any moment, and he knew that the survival of his crew, and potentially that of Earth itself, might depend on the choices he was about to make. The temporary ceasefire granted by General Zarath allowed Captain Alex Mercer a moment to regroup and plan. As the Eclipse drifted silently in space, dwarfed by the imposing Zalar fleet, Alex convened a strategy meeting in the war room with his senior officers, including Lieutenant Jake Harris and Engineer Max Reynolds. All right, team, Alex began, pacing before a holographic display of the Zalar ships. We need to prepare for all possible outcomes. Max, what's the status of our defensive systems? Max adjusted his glasses, looking up from his tablet. Defensive shields are at full capacity, and I've rerouted additional power to our armaments. However, if it comes down to a firefight, we're outgunned and outnumbered. Jake chimed in, his tone urgent. I've been analyzing the distress signal. It's odd, Captain. The signal's origin point doesn't match the Zalar's current location. It's like it was bounced around to throw off the tracker. That might mean someone else is out here, or it was a setup to get us exactly where we are, Alex deduced, his brows furrowed in thought. Keep digging, Jake. There's more to this, and we need to uncover it before making our next move. As they strategized, a junior officer burst into the room. Captain, you need to see this. He handed Alex a tablet showing live feed from the external cameras. The Zalar fleet was mobilizing, ships slowly forming an offensive line. Looks like our time is up, Alex said grimly. Communications? Still silent, Captain. No word from Zarath or his fleet, the communications officer reported from the doorway. Alex handed the tablet back to the officer. All right, maintain our defensive posture. Do not fire unless fired upon. We need to hold out hope for a diplomatic solution. Turning back to his team, Alex continued. Max, ensure all systems are green. Jake, any progress on that signal? Jake's fingers flew over his console, a determined look etched across his face. There's definitely a secondary source for the signal, separate from the Zalar's technology. I think someone else is out here, possibly caught between us and the Zalar. That's our leverage, Alex concluded. If we can find the true source of the distress signal, it might give us the upper hand, or at least a bargaining chip. The meeting concluded with orders to enhance surveillance and prepare for potential combat. As his crew dispersed to their stations, Alex remained behind, gazing at the display. The image of the looming Zalar ships served as a stark reminder of the precarious situation they faced. Hours later, as the Eclipse edged closer to the potential secondary source of the signal under the cover of a nearby asteroid field, the tension was palpable. Suddenly, the ship's alarm blared. The Zalar fleet had launched a first warning salvo across their bow. Captain, they're hailing us, the communications officer called out, his voice tense. Alex rushed to the bridge. Put them through, he ordered, steeling himself for the confrontation. General Zarath's face appeared on the screen, his expression unreadable. Captain Mercer, this is your final warning. Surrender your ship, or we will destroy it. Alex met the general's gaze with equal intensity. General Zarath, we've discovered there's another player in this game. Hold your fire and let's talk about this. There's more at stake here than you and I." A moment of silence hung between the two leaders, each calculating their next move in this high-stakes game of cosmic chess. Zrath finally broke the silence, a slight shift in his demeanor hinting at intrigue. "You have 1 hour, Captain. Convince me." As the communication cut, Alex turned to his crew, a resolute spark in his eye. "Let's find that signal, and fast. It's our only shot." The tension aboard the Eclipse was palpable as the crew raced against the clock. With only 1 hour to make their case to General Zrath and the Zalar fleet, Captain Alex Mercer had ordered a full-scale search for the source of the mysterious distress signal. Lieutenant Jake Harris worked feverishly at his station, tracing the signal's origins with a focus that bordered on obsession. "Captain, I think I've got something," Jake finally announced, his voice a mixture of excitement and relief. "The signal is definitely not Zalar tech. It's originating from a small asteroid in the belt we're currently hiding in. It looks like there's some kind of structure embedded in the rock." Alex nodded sharply. "Prepare a landing party. We need to check this out ourselves. Max, you're with me. Jake, you have the bridge." As Alex and Max donned their spacesuits, the Eclipse maneuvered closer to the asteroid. The surface was rugged and uneven, making the landing a risky endeavor. Once on the surface, Alex and Max made their way to the structure, a small metallic outpost that seemed abandoned. Inside, they found a trove of alien technology that was clearly not designed by human or Zalar hands. Amidst the technology was a distress beacon, still active but badly damaged. "This doesn't look like a military outpost," Max observed, examining a console. "More like a scientific station. Whoever sent the signal might have been doing research here." Alex nodded, recording everything with his suit's camera. "Let's gather what we can and get back to the ship. We need to show this to Zrath." Back on the bridge of the Eclipse, Jake patched through the video feed to the Zalar fleet as soon as Alex and Max returned. The image of the alien technology and the hidden outpost appeared on the main screen just as General Zrath's face materialized once again. "You were telling the truth, Captain Mercer," Zrath said, his voice betraying a hint of surprise. "This changes things, but why should this concern us?" Alex stepped forward, facing the screen confidently. "This outpost is proof of another civilization in this sector, one possibly unknown to both of us. Their technology could be invaluable, or their intentions a threat. We should investigate this together, rather than fighting amongst ourselves." Zrath was silent for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Agreed, but make no mistake, Captain, this does not mean we are allies. This is a temporary truce, for mutual benefit." "As long as it stops you from firing on us, I'll take it," Alex replied, a slight smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. With the temporary truce in place, the Eclipse and a small Zalar contingent prepared to return to the asteroid. The mission was fraught with tension, as both human and alien crew members worked side by side, their mutual distrust simmering just below the surface. As they explored the outpost further, they uncovered data logs that indicated the presence of a potentially habitable planet within the sector. The log suggested that the outpost was a forward base for a larger exploratory mission from this unknown civilization. "This could be big," Max said, looking over the data with Alex. "A habitable planet. That's worth more than any weapon." "Agreed," Alex replied. "We need to secure this information. It could be the key to ensuring peace with the Zalar, or leverage if things go south." As they transmitted their findings back to the Eclipse, the mood was cautiously optimistic. But as they prepared to leave the outpost, the unexpected happened. The distant roar of engines signified another player entering the fray. A fleet, neither human nor Zalar, appeared on the horizon, heading straight for them. "Looks like we're not the only ones interested in this outpost," Jake said grimly from the Eclipse's bridge. "Captain, you'd better get back here. It's about to get a lot more complicated." Back aboard the Eclipse, Captain Alex Mercer quickly convened a strategic meeting in the command center, his crew's faces reflecting the gravity of their new situation. As the unidentified fleet approached, tension mounted. With the Zalar contingent still on board, the atmosphere was thick with an uneasy truce and the potential for conflict at any turn. "Analysis, Jake," Alex demanded, his eyes fixed on the screen displaying the incoming ships. Jake adjusted the view, enhancing the details of the unfamiliar vessels. "They're unlike anything we've encountered in our databases, Captain. No known configurations or technology signatures. They're fast and heavily armed, but there's no aggressive maneuvering yet." Max chimed in, his tone urgent. "If they're here for the outpost, we need a plan now. Our defenses won't hold against two fleets. Alex nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. We need to leverage our position. General Zrath, this is your fleet and your firepower. Our interests align more than ever. We can either share the technology found on that outpost or risk losing everything to this new threat. General Zrath, who had been observing quietly, grunted his acknowledgement. Your point is taken, Captain Mercer. Prepare your crew for a coordinated defense. We will handle the offensive front. With the strategy set, Alex turned his attention to his own crew. Prepare all stations for combat. Max, ensure our shields are at maximum. We can't afford any breaches. As preparations were underway, Alex took a moment to communicate directly with the approaching fleet. Unknown vessels, this is Captain Alex Mercer of the Earth vessel Eclipse. We are on a peaceful mission and have no desire for conflict. State your intentions. The response came after a tense pause. A holographic image flickered to life in the Eclipse's command center, revealing a humanoid figure, its features sharp and its eyes piercing. I am Commander Lyra of the Cyrenian fleet. We detected the activation of the outpost and have come to reclaim what is rightfully ours. Alex exchanged a look with General Zrath, then addressed the hologram. Commander Lyra, we were unaware of any claims to this outpost. We stumbled upon it while investigating a distress signal. We're willing to discuss a peaceful resolution. Commander Lyra's expression hardened. We will discuss terms once we secure the outpost. Do not interfere. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the Eclipse and the Zalar fleet to quickly finalize their plans. Alex faced his crew, his expression resolute. We stand our ground. Coordinate with the Zalar ships. We can't let this technology fall into the wrong hands. As the Cyrenian fleet drew closer, the Eclipse and Zalar ships formed a united front. Energy shields powered up, weapons systems on standby, and all eyes were on the approaching ships. The first volleys were cautious, more a test of defenses than a full assault. The Eclipse shuddered slightly under the impact, but held firm. Max reported, Shields holding at 75%, but we won't withstand a prolonged attack. Alex nodded, keeping his voice steady. Hold positions. Let them make the next move. It was a high-stakes standoff, with each side gauging the other's strength and intentions. As the Cyrenian ships maneuvered for another pass, General Zrath signaled his readiness to escalate the confrontation. Captain Mercer, we go on your mark, Zrath communicated, his voice gruff but cooperative. Alex assessed the situation, aware that the next few moments could dictate the future of their encounter. Hold steady, he commanded. Let's show them we're not here to back down. As the Cyrenian fleet lined up for another strike, the Eclipse and Zalar ships prepared to respond, ready to defend their newfound alliance and the secrets hidden within the Asteroid outpost. The standoff with the Cyrenian fleet escalated quickly, leaving Captain Alex Mercer with little choice but to enact Operation Hammerfall, a defensive strategy devised to use the outpost's technology as a deterrent. With the Cyrenians showing no sign of backing down and the Zalar fleet ready for a confrontation, Alex knew that their temporary alliance was about to be tested under fire. General Zrath, are we synchronized on the plan? Alex communicated through the secured line to the Zalar commander. Yes, Captain Mercer. My ships are positioned. We wait for your command, Zrath replied, his tone indicating a rare moment of trust between the two leaders. Alex turned to his crew, stationed at their battle stations throughout the Eclipse. All hands, prepare for Operation Hammerfall. Max, activate the outpost's defensive grid. We need that shield up now. Max, working rapidly alongside a Zalar technician, nodded. Activating now, Captain. It'll take a minute to fully engage. On the main view screen, the Cyrenian fleet advanced, their ships sleek and aggressive. They opened fire, a barrage of energy pulses raining down on the outpost's shield, which flickered under the strain, but held strong. Shield is holding, but it's not going to last forever against this kind of firepower, Max reported, his voice tense. Keep it up, Max. We just need to buy some time, Alex said, his gaze fixed on the battlefield unfolding before them. Jake, handling communications, turned from his console. Captain, I'm getting a hail from the Cyrenian commander. On screen, Alex commanded, his eyes not leaving the view of the conflict outside. Commander Lyra's image appeared, her expression stern. This is your last chance to stand down and hand over control of the outpost to us, she declared. Alex stood firm. Commander Lyra, we cannot comply. This outpost, its technology, it's not just about power. It has the potential for peaceful application, something that could benefit us all. Lyra scoffed. Naive, Captain, but have it your way. Her image flickered out as the transmission ended. As the Cyrenians prepared for another assault, the outpost's shield began to waver under the continued onslaught. Just then, the defensive grid reached full capacity. Max exclaimed, "The grid is active, redirecting additional power to reinforce the shield." The shield expanded, enveloping both the outpost and a portion of the space around it, including several of the Zalar and Eclipse ships. The Cyrenian weapons clashed against the enhanced barrier, their energy pulses diffusing harmlessly. "General Zrath, now's our chance." Alex seized the moment. "Push forward with your ships. Let's take the fight to them." Zrath responded with a roar of approval, and the Zalar ships surged ahead, their weapons blazing. The Eclipse followed, providing cover fire and coordinating with the Zalar fleet to flank the Cyrenians. The battle raged fiercely, with the enhanced defenses providing just enough edge for the Allied fleets to gain the upper hand. The Cyrenians, caught off guard by the sudden and robust defense, began to falter. Alex watched as the tide turned, his crew working seamlessly with the Zalars, a sight he never imagined witnessing. "Keep pressing, everyone. We can do this." After intense combat, the Cyrenians, unable to penetrate the outpost's defenses and outmaneuvered by the combined forces of the Eclipse and Zalar, began to retreat. The battlefield, littered with debris and the echoes of energy blasts, slowly calmed as the Cyrenian ships withdrew into the depths of space. Breathing a sigh of relief, Alex turned to General Zrath on the communications screen. "General, it seems we've repelled them, for now." Zrath nodded, a grudging respect in his eyes. "Indeed, Captain. You fought well today. Perhaps humans are more formidable than I presumed." As the adrenaline of the battle subsided, Alex allowed himself a moment to reflect on the alliance they had forged under fire. "Thank you, General. Let's secure the outpost and assess the situation. There's still much to discuss." The victory was a testament to what could be achieved when former foes united against a common threat. As the crew of the Eclipse began repairs and damage assessments, Alex knew that the events of today would forever change the dynamic of human and Zalar relations. But for now, they had a moment of peace, hard-earned and precious. The unexpected victory against the Cyrenian fleet left the Eclipse and its temporary Zalar allies in control of the outpost and its valuable secrets. However, Captain Alex Mercer knew that the peace they had forged was fragile, and the truce with the Zalar was tentative at best. As they worked together to secure the outpost, Alex and General Zrath surveyed the recovered technologies and data. The outpost contained information on advanced propulsion systems, energy weapons, and details about the previously undiscovered habitable planet. "General Zrath, these technologies could revolutionize space travel and energy utilization not just for our two races, but for many others in the galaxy," Alex proposed, hoping to extend the spirit of cooperation. Zrath, his expression unreadable, nodded slowly. "Indeed, Captain Mercer. But such power also comes with great risk. We must decide carefully how to proceed." As they debated the distribution of the new technologies, a distress signal from the Cyrenian command broke through the outpost's communication system. Commander Lyra appeared on screen, her demeanor one of desperate determination. "Captain Mercer, General Zrath, you leave us no choice." Lyra's voice crackled through the static. "We are en route with reinforcements. Surrender the outpost, or we will take it by force." Alex and Zrath exchanged a look of mutual understanding. Neither wanted to relinquish their hard-won gains or see the outpost destroyed in another battle. "Prepare for another engagement," Alex ordered, turning to his crew. "This time it's not just about holding them off. We need to end this one way or another." General Zrath rallied his troops, his voice booming over the comms. "Zalar warriors, stand with our human counterparts. Today, we fight not just for dominion, but for the future of all our peoples." As the Cyrenian fleet approached, a mix of Zalar and human technology powered the outpost's defenses. The combined fleet of the Eclipse and the Zalar ships took strategic positions, ready to use everything at their disposal. The battle commenced with an intense exchange of firepower. The Eclipse maneuvered through volleys of energy blasts, its cannons responding with precise strikes. Beside them, the Zalar ships unleashed a barrage of advanced torpedoes, turning space into a dazzling display of destruction and defensive prowess. In the midst of chaos, Alex orchestrated a daring maneuver. "Max, redirect all available power to the forward shields and prepare the EMP pulse. It's now or never." Max nodded, his hands flying over the controls. "EMP charged and ready, Captain. On your mark." "Wait for my signal," Alex said, his eyes glued to the tactical display. "Now, Max, fire!" The EMP pulse surged forward, a silent wave of energy that swept over the Cyrenian ships. One by one, their systems faltered, leaving them adrift and vulnerable. Seizing the opportunity, General Zrath commanded, "All ships, target their engines and weapons systems. Disable them, but do not destroy. They must understand that this conflict ends now." As the last of the Cyrenian ships were disabled, Commander Lyra, now captive on her flagship, appeared once again on the communications screen. "Captain Mercer, General Zrath, we yield," she conceded, her voice strained with frustration and defeat. "Let us discuss terms of surrender." In the aftermath, as Alex and Zrath negotiated with Lyra, the seeds of a more lasting peace were sown. The technologies from the outpost would be shared under strict regulations to prevent misuse, and a council comprising representatives from human, Zalar, and Cyrenian forces would oversee the habitable planet's exploration and development. As the Eclipse and the remaining ships orbited the now peaceful outpost, Alex reflected on the tumultuous events that had unfolded. They had not only averted a war, but had laid the groundwork for a coalition that might one day ensure peace across their region of the galaxy. The final confrontation, though fraught with peril, had opened doors to new possibilities, ones that Alex hoped would lead to a brighter future for all. As the dust of battle settled around the outpost, Captain Alex Mercer stood on the observation deck of the Eclipse, gazing out at the stars that had witnessed the tumultuous events leading to an unexpected alliance. The outpost was now under joint control, and the once hostile factions were in the early stages of forming a governance that would oversee the shared use of the technologies and the exploration of the newly discovered habitable planet. Alex felt a mix of exhaustion and elation. The threat of the Cyrenian fleet had been neutralized, not through outright conquest, but through a strategic blend of diplomacy and military prowess. The Zalar, led by General Zrath, had proven to be honorable, if somewhat reluctant, allies. Commander Lyra, representing the Cyrenians, was now part of ongoing negotiations to establish a fair distribution of the outpost's resources. "Captain Mercer, you should see this," Lieutenant Jake Harris called out, interrupting Alex's contemplation. Joining Jake at the communications panel, Alex watched as live feeds from across human and Zalar space showed the news of their joint victory and the promising technological advances that were now possible. Messages of commendation and hope poured in, painting a picture of a future much brighter than any of them had dared to imagine during the dark moments of the conflict. "It's really something, isn't it?" Jake said, his voice filled with wonder. "They're calling it a new dawn for interspecies relations." Alex nodded, his thoughts on the crews and soldiers who had fought under his command. "We've set something in motion here, Jake. Let's make sure it leads to something good." In the following days, a formal treaty was signed aboard the Eclipse, with Earth officials, Zalar representatives, and Cyrenian envoys each pledging cooperation and peace. Alex found himself appointed as a key advisor to the new coalition, his experience and decisive actions during the crisis marking him as a leader suited for this new era. As the Eclipse prepared to return to Earth, Alex took a moment to record his final captain's log of the mission. "We've witnessed the birth of a coalition forged in the fires of conflict, tempered by mutual need, and solidified with a shared vision of the future. It's a reminder that even in the darkest times, unity can illuminate the path forward." With the outpost now operating as a hub of technological exchange and diplomatic meetings, the Eclipse set course for home. The journey back was quiet, reflective, as each member of the crew considered the impact of their actions. Upon entering Earth's orbit, the Eclipse was greeted with celebrations. Humanity had not only survived a potentially devastating conflict, but had emerged as a central figure in a new galactic order. As he disembarked, Alex was met by a crowd of reporters, dignitaries, and military personnel. Cameras flashed, and questions flew fast, but Alex's eyes searched for the familiar faces of his family and friends. Their reunion was emotional, a poignant reminder of what had been at stake. Later, at a ceremony honoring those who had served in the conflict, Alex delivered a speech. "Today, we stand at the threshold of a new frontier, one not just of planets and stars, but of understanding and cooperation. Let us proceed with caution, but also with curiosity. We must be guardians of this peace, stewards of our shared future." As applause filled the room, Alex felt the weight of his new responsibilities. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but for the first time in a long while, he was genuinely hopeful about the journey to come. The Eclipse's mission had changed the course of history, not through the force of arms, but through the power of unity. It was a victory not just for humanity, but for all beings willing to reach across the void in friendship.